good.
Evil is actually good?
That there's the possibility, and yes,
Turning you to the front. Earn this.
so, and it may seem, but I'll try and I'll really try and explain this.
Got gas moving in.
So the three options are: God can make everyone do good only, right? Where everyone's all good. But if he were to do that, if everyone was only allowed to do good stuff that
You had it
Jesus
coming,
made,
the tosser.
Marking the rest
then
of them.
God would be a tyrant and be forced to
All squad members
have
are in
people
the
do.
safe zone.
Of that.
Hold on. I really think that this is going to make sense. That God would not be good because he would be a tyrant, forcing people to do something they don't want to do.
Look,
The second,
but what's happening is that you're sticking to a script.
Enemies dropping
Right.
into the
Probably
AO.
from William Lane Craig or Frank Turek or something like that. And you're using that script to respond to my argument, but that script is for a different line of argument.
so it's actually
Taking effective fire!
by I love William Lane Craig. I love those are several of the people. Whenever I was an atheist trying to disprove Christianity, I was actually doing research on to decide this. I was also looking at Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Bart Ehrman, these different people. And so I do think that it is a sound argument, and I am using it. But regardless of where or who came up with that argument, right? It doesn't.
It's in the spirit of people like J.L. Mackie and other, William Rowe and these people that bore the problem of evil. But I made this argument, right? And I think a lot of people would, you're not going to find this in a paper exactly formed this way, but of course it's inspired by people like Mackie. But I'm just saying that the script that you have, the response that you have, is for a different formulation of the problem of evil, because all I'm saying is that if God wills all of what happens in creation, and God only wills the good, right, then that means that everything in creation, everything that occurs, right, is good. But God believes that there are things in creation that are not good. And so you get a contradiction, right? This doesn't have to do with free will, and if it does, you're going to have to show me what premise that I just said is relevant to the issue of freedom.
Yeah, so I'm saying that if God did not allow there to be the possibility of evil, then God would not be good.
Move it.
Okay. Let's just do the free will thing. Fine. You got me. Okay, free will. Do you think that having free will,
you're redeploying,
okay, means that you can possibly do evil?
Squad made it to the safe zone.
Yes.
Okay. So just to be clear, free will means you have to at least have the option to do evil, correct?
Correct.
Does God have free will?
It's not the same as our free will now.
Now, how is this not special pleading?
So I'm not the same as God. I'm not by nature all good. God, okay, I can lie. God says that he cannot lie.
Is God a robot?
No.
Okay, that means that you don't have to have human free will to not be a robot.
There's a bounty on your head. Eliminate enemies.
Well, I'm not saying human free will. Free will would be able to do whatever you please.
Enemy soldier incoming.
And I'm saying that God, thankfully, does not do whatever he pleases. He does stuff in the constructs of who he says he is, which would be slow to anger, loving, faithful. So if he can't do something that's not faithful, can't do something that's not loving, can't do something that's not all these different things. And I was saying that God actually wouldn't be loving or good or any of these different things if he didn't allow there to be free will and also punish those who
The point is that God has a type of free will where anything he chooses is morally permissible, correct?
Taking fire over here.
he can choose something that's morally permissible.
Enemies are dropping into the area.
Yeah, so he
Watch the
can't do
skies.
something that's against his
Top
character.
25. Well done.
Like I'm just he
Be
literally
advised,
cannot do something that's
Resurgence is
against
no
his
longer
character.
active.
Let's clarify. Do you think God is
Valiant.
morality
Return to
doesn't
base for
apply
debrief.
to God?
Most wanted contract
I think
failed.
God is good. I wouldn't say
Hey,
God is moral because there's so many different definitions that I would say God is good.
Is there any sense that you understand where
I'm not saying human free will. Free will would be able to do whatever you please. And I'm saying that God, thankfully, does not do whatever he pleases. He does stuff in the constructs of who he says he is, which would be slow to anger, loving, faithful. So if he can't do something that's not faithful, can't do something that's not loving, can't do something that's not all these different things. And I was saying that God actually wouldn't be loving or good or any of these different things if he didn't allow there to be free will and also punish those
Look,
who
the point is that God has a type of free will where anything he chooses is morally permissible, correct?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so that means that God has a type of free will where he can choose something that's morally impermissible.
No, so he can't do something that's against his character. Like he literally cannot do something that's against his character.
Well, let's clarify. Do you think God is moral or just amoral? Morality doesn't even apply to God.
I think God is good. I wouldn't say God is moral because there's so many different definitions that I would say God is good.
Is there any sense that you understand where we can say God is morally perfect? Any sense of moral?
It depends on whose definition of morally perfect because everyone has slight difference in morals.
Yeah, I understand that, but look, if your pastor gave you a true or false quiz, and the first question is number 1, God is morally perfect, would you put true, false, or not answer?
I would say yes.
Okay,
I
so
would
God,
say that.
okay.
Check your gear
Now
and
you can
weapons.
be
We'll
morally
be deploying
perfect
shortly.
and have free will because you think that God is morally perfect and he also has free will. So there's no contradiction in having being morally perfect and also, which is to say that you always do the good, morally
Enemy
good
soldier
thing,
incoming.
and having free will.
So I'm saying that to be morally good, you would have to create free will, but you wouldn't have to necessarily have this free will to be morally good.
What does free will simpliciter mean? By simpliciter, I'm not asking what demon free will is, angel free will is, God free will, human free will, beaver's free will. I just want to know your definition of free will.
Yeah, so free will is the ability to do whatever you want. But I guess there would be some constraints. So I'm kind of fine with that definition.
Okay, that means I don't have the ability to do whatever I want to do because sometimes I want to fly. So I don't have free will?
I would say, and this is where, as soon as I said it, I literally knew as soon as I defined it that way. That's why I tried to catch myself. So just because we cannot fly, right, does not mean that we don't have natural free will. So what I mean by this is that all of us are natural, so we cannot do something supernatural, even though we may want to do that, because we are only natural.
Sorry,
Time's
what was
over.
your
Stand by for
definition
deployment
of
to the
free
war
will
zone.
simpliciter?
So I'm saying that, and again, I guess
we're up in 3 mics. Let's move.
I'm saying
There
free
you are.
will. I have the
got the green
ability
light. You're
to
going to the war
choose what
zone.
I want to do.
Grab your gear and shoot. You're
Well,
up in
that's
3.
the definition.
But that
Enemy
doesn't mean that I
activity will be
can
high.
do it.
Expect
So
contact early and
like
often.
if you want, so so it still applies because okay, you're saying I want to be able to fly. Well,
Let's roll.
you can in an airplane. It doesn't mean that you can grow wings into it.
my
But-
desire. I want to fly like
No.
Resurgence.
I'm saying
Stay alive to keep your
that,
squad in the fight.
and I want to make this very, very clear. I'm saying that like what you want to be able to do, like you can have those wants and desires,
Enemies dropping into the AO.
but that doesn't mean that everyone has the same ability to do supernatural. I want to walk on water. That doesn't mean I can do that, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been given free will to do X, Y, or Z.
To your definition of free will, is it of simpliciter? So are you defining free will simpliciter as having the ability to do what you want?
UAV overhead.
No, not the ability to do whatever you want, because I'm sure some people want to be God and they can't be.
Right.
Well,
I'm
Thank you.
saying that
Deploying.
we
Well
have the free will to make choices. So the choices to do certain things.
Okay, so as long as you can make choices, you're free.
Well, not necessarily, because I'm sure slaves were able to make choices.
You're back on station. Go get after it.
So
Right.
just because you can make
Down to you,
certain
soldier.
choices doesn't
Stay
necessarily
sharp.
mean you're free.
Look, I just don't know what you mean by this thing called free will, because everything depends on it.
Yeah. So
Your squad mate's
the
back on
ability,
station.
what I mean by free
Good
will,
work.
is to do stuff that's outside of God's laws or regulations. So what I mean by that is that if we could
That's
only
free will.
do like a robot. So this is what I mean. A robot can only do something, right? Or let me put it this way: if God were to make us and we couldn't do any evil, we could only do good. We could only do, we could only follow God's rules, right?
Okay.
Then that would not have free will. But to say that we can
Enemies are dropping
disobey
into the
God's
area.
rules,
Watch the
we have
skies.
the free will to disobey those rules,
Enemies deployed
but
at
we don't have the
counter-UAV.
free will to become God ourselves, or the free will to and again, we can fly, but I think you were talking about like fly like Superman or something like that. That still doesn't mean that you don't have.
Giving a definition. Are you giving a definition of human free will? Or are you giving a definition of free will simpliciter?
Right, so free
Gas
will
is
is never
moving.
mentioned a single time in the Bible. So it's just kind of a human term that we have used to describe something that is taught in the Bible. It may not be a perfect word to describe what's taught, because it's technically not true, complete free will as in the way I define it. But we do have the free will to do
Located the rest
evil,
of them.
which, if we didn't have that free will, God would not be good to allow
All
that.
right, your squad's
Okay,
in the
wait.
safe zone.
Can you have free will and only be able to choose from good options?
Can I have free will and only choose to do good?
Can something, anything, have free will and only have the set of options that are good?
I mean, free will to. How would you define free will then?
How? Well, I'm a compatibilist. You're not gonna like my definition.
Stand by for redeployment.
But this is you're appealing to free will. I'm not.
No. Well, anyway, just go ahead.
Like, for instance, do you think that you have free will in heaven?
Loadout drop headed your
You know,
way.
something that's kind of interesting. I don't know a lot about heaven because it's not talked about exactly how it's going to be up there. So everything I would say is just speculation.
Is there evil after the day of judgment, and after I go to hell and you go to heaven? Do you think that there could be evil in heaven after that point?
No, because we will have made the choice to become a new creation.
Enemies
Perfect.
dropping into
Okay.
the AO.
Yeah.
Toss
okay.
in the decoy!
Okay, now are you a robot at that point? Where after the day of judgment and God pats you on the back and you ran the race, whatever he does, high five, he puts you go through the pearly race suit, you suddenly become a robot?
Yeah, so again, I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't know. Will anyone know exactly what heaven's going to be like?
Okay, so
Even if, like, you...
Stay alive so your
God's
squad
gonna
can
turn you
redeploy.
into a robot in heaven. That's possible.
You got reinforcements inbound.
Is it possible? Anything's possible, but is it reasonable, or is it said that that's what's going to happen? No. So I'm saying I don't know
Okay.
necessarily how it all works. Because Jesus of Nazareth was asked a tricky question like, and then these Sadducees were going over these different rules. Like, it says that if a husband and wife are married and the husband dies, she's to marry the brother. It was something like that. It was talking about Israelites where God wanted to keep like his people separate. Anyway, totally different discussion,
Go get your revenge.
right? But whenever they're asking like if she married all 7 brothers and they all die and they have no children, whose husband will she be in heaven? And Jesus responded with, "It's because you don't understand the power of God or the scriptures that you ask that question." And so it's because you don't understand, and this is not a knock on you. I would say that if you don't understand the scriptures or the power of God, it would lead you to ask, I can't physically understand how something is possible, like i.e. the Trinity that's up there. So therefore, because I can't understand it myself, means that it can't happen.
Look,
Gas is closing
let me
in.
just get to
Back on station.
the you
Good
believe
work. Good
it's
job.
either that
Marking the rest of that squad on your tac map.
heaven
Go get hunting.
there can be evil in heaven, or there can be evil in heaven in the day of judgment. So if there can't be evil in heaven, right, then if you think it's possible that
There's
there's
an
evil in
opportunity
heaven,
to do better.
then it's possible to
One
have
down.
free will and only be able to do the good. Which means that